Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Gourmet Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay. We got Jacob in Wisconsin. We got Carly in Wisconsin as well. And we've also got a stranger up here in the center of the program. He's back from Puerto Rico.
Jan almost everywhere.
We got Emilio back in the house. How's everybody doing tonight?
Emilio, welcome back, brother.
Yeah, what's going on, Emilio? Glad they let you back over the border.
You're muted, bro.
Wow, blew it. Yeah, it's been a minute, clearly. I missed everybody. Glad to be back. Jacob, I am happy that they let me back across. I didn't get as tan as I thought I would for them to not let me back, but we're good. We're cruising.
Why didn't you get a cool shirt, dude?
I'm not spending 80 on that. There, Jacob.
What a cheap.
We did get a picture of Emilio after the pub crawl, though.
We need to Photoshop him on that now, don't we? That's what we need to do.
I honestly should have had a Puerto Rican flag up behind me and there's got a quick reset here.
There you go.
No.
All right, let's waste no time. Let's jump into the breaking news that literally dropped right before we went live, Tim. We got some breaking news here tonight, sir.
Some breaking news.
That's right. Here we go. Ari Miroff tweets out the Packers are signing wide receiver Mecole Hardman per Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. So obviously, Mecole Hardman played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Some would say he's a little undersized. I want to say he's right around 5'10", maybe 5'11", 4.33 speed. Obviously got the speed to hit a home run. The other thing you gotta recognize too, it looked like Ryan tweeted a video out, fairly effective in the punt return and kick return game. It sounds like we can do a deep dive on that if y'all would like. But let's get initial thoughts. I've got PFF grades, everything ready to go. We've also got his RAS card from when he came into the league. Initial thoughts before we look into everything specifically. And I don't care who goes. Let's start with Emilio since he's back in the house here.
Yeah. I think I saw earlier in the chat Greg Rice said he had 90 yards last year. I'll take that, man. That's all the speed I need on the field. But yeah, I'm a little behind, so I'll pass it to the other host. Yeah.
All right. What do you got on it, Jacob? What's your initial thoughts before we dive into everything, man?
I came right from work, so I didn't even see this breaking. But now that I've had 17 seconds to dissect it, I honestly am kind of okay with it. When you look at his grades, which I'm sure we'll get into, he's pretty decent. Definitely know what he's not a bad football player. Not necessarily the size maybe that we wanted to replace a Watson type, but you talk about a burner. I believe he's like a 4.33 type guy. There we go. Looking at some of those grades there, but look, that's a pretty steady Eddie, solid career there. You look at some of the ways that run that's the run grade, right? So does he do a lot of jet sweeps, end arounds, that kind of thing? I know the guy's kind of a little speed demon. So, and like you said, maybe it'd be a great addition in the special teams room. I'm kind of over the Keyshawn Nixon experience, to be honest, in the special teams room. So maybe this is just a little spark plug. However, I am starting to wonder, who does he take over for? Who do we lose because he's on the roster? That's the only thing that will make me maybe a little bit hesitant.
I'm wondering about the contract, and I think that will give us a lot of answers to these questions we've got. As soon as that information drops, that will tell us whether or not they plan on actually starting him, or if it's going to be, hey, look, he's going to compete for a spot, and who knows, he might even be kind of on the chopping block come camp, right? But again, it's not a player that you go, wow, but I was kind of surprised with the PFF grades. Now, keep in mind the snaps. He hasn't played over 318 snaps in the last 3 years. It's actually went down every year, so which would kind of suggest he's probably been faced with some injuries, can't stay healthy. That type of thing. Tim, we'll get your take. Let me get this super chat real quick. King Tron says, welcome back. Good to see you all. I appreciate the super chat there, sir. Josh Martin, new wide receiver number 1 super chat. Thank you so much, Josh. Tim, what's your initial takeaway here with Mecole Hardman, man?
I would disagree with Josh. But I know Josh was just being sarcastic probably. But I think, Jacob, what you were saying about him being maybe a motion guy, a flyer kind of guy. He does have, I'm looking at his stats right now. I mean, 17, 31, 46, 31, 62 yards rushing. So I think he's versatile. I think this is an option. I don't think that he's wide receiver 1, 2, or even 3, but definitely bringing some special teams experience. Maybe we've got ourselves another return option. I'll take that for sure. I'm not mad at this signing at all. I think it makes the wide receiver room more competitive even before the draft. So I think we're looking good.
And it looks like he played, if I'm looking at this correctly, 11 games, right? And didn't get a whole lot of snaps in most of those games. However, he wasn't just a slot receiver, right? It looks like he only played slot in 2 of those games, is what I'm seeing here. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got, left receiver, right receiver, and then, of course, slot. So maybe it is something they're going to throw him on the outside, stretch the field vertically, and they could mix and match him with Jaden Reed inside underneath, right? I think what this is kind of comp to, depending on the contract, is kind of this might be the Bo Melton type of guy that to come in and give you those reps if he can learn the offense, of course. Carly, what do you think about this this signing here that broke right before we went live?
2 things, really. I hope he's getting the vet minimum. I think it all depends on how much money, right? It really will influence how we look at it. But also, I'm wondering if if he might settle for a little less money because he thinks with the injuries that have plagued our other guys that he will actually get a chance to compete, and that might kind of light a fire under his butt and get him moving and working a little harder than he did on his other teams.
I think that's an interesting point. Like he looks at this situation. Hey, look, they don't really have a field stretcher right now. Maybe I can go out there and get some meaningful reps and earn that next contract. How old is he, though? He's 27. So if he comes out this year and has a solid year, he might be able to make him some money next year, But Emilio, based off everything we've said to this point, am I wrong to just kind of assume that his contract probably going to be pretty cheap, or do you think we're going to look up and be surprised and go, damn, he's getting paid $10 million?
No, I think you're spot on, dude. If it's anything over 4, I think I'm going to be a little surprised.
Over 4?
Yeah, Jacob, you got to pay him something. I mean,
1.5 million. All right,
you want bare minimum.
1.5.
It's a Georgia Bulldog. Goody's going back to the well. He's under the 6 foot mark. I think that's also a sign. We've been putting a lot of points out there like, hey, we need a big, tall, vertical, fast wide receiver, and they go out and sign a 5'10" fast wide receiver. So is height really the issue? Is Musgrave going to be that vertical threat? Like, we still have guys on the team that, that can kind of push the field. I think that we might be leaning more towards, a wide receiver, 4-5, and special teamer that could be a dog. I think that's where maybe I would lean a little bit.
Maybe the only guy on the team with a Super Bowl ring, right?
Damn, Tim came in hot. You've been
talking about a little age, adding some age to this team.
You
got a young team. You want to get over the hump, bring a champion into that locker room. I mean,
that's totally fair, Tim.
Being real,
bro.
Tim's making some real points where I was going to say maybe they came out with some new cleats that have heels in them, so they allow you to stop it over.
How you gonna crack a short joke on our guy? Wrong. Just wrong.
Professor Cake says he has 3 rings.
Does he really? Heck, I guess he does. Yeah,
he would. Yeah.
Here's a guy.
No, it ain't a guy. Stop there. That's pretty wild to think about, right? And yeah. So let's pull up his RAS card real quick and shout out to Math Bomb, who does an excellent job providing this information over on his website. Make sure you go check it out. Just Google RAS and it will pop up. I promise you. So let's see here. Where are we at? Bang! I tweeted it out just now. Here is Mecole Hardman's RAS card from when he came out of college. Another Georgia Bulldog, Tim. Another Georgia Bulldog. RAS was an 8.30. His composite size grade was very poor. At 5'10", scored him a 2.27. His weight was only 183 pounds at 2.39 was the score. His bench press, however, those 17 bench reps. That's small. That's pretty solid there. Gave him an 8.28. His composite explosive grade, or explosion grade, I should say, vertical 36.5 inches. That's a 7.66 grade. Broad jump was 9.11. It gives him a 5.17. And then here's where he's elite. His 40-yard dash 4.33. Scored a 9.90. The 20-yard split aspect of that 40-yard dash was a 2.57, which scored him an 8.93, and the 10-yard split was a 1.54, which scored him an 8.81. So obviously, it's pretty even across the board. But the 40 got him the highest grade of the three, so it's more top end speed, but it does look fairly balanced from the 10 to the 20 to the 40-yard split. Now his composite agility grade, good, with the shuttle at 4.25, scored him a 5.75, and then what kind of got him into that good range was his three cone at 6.75, which scored him an 8.98. Comments on the RAS here and how we may or may not use them. Everybody's so
I mean, the biggest knock is pretty obvious here, right? It's his height and weight. That's kind of, he's a little lightning bug type guy, not tiny or anything like lightning that, but bug. Yeah, or like a water bug. You know how they move real quick and shift around, and I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen. I do think it'll be a very cheap contract, a vet minimum type thing. Ron Sanville in the chat, well, real quick, Mike Hebring, aka the Packers super fan, says I like it, but we still need a wide receiver in the top 100 in the draft. I completely agree with that, Mike.
Yeah, the Hardman signing doesn't change the fact that I think we're going in the first round 1 to 4. We're probably going to grab a receiver.
Do you think that this was an exercise, Tim, that they said, all right, we want to find exactly where the floor is going to be in this wide receiver room because Watson's going to be done for predominantly the whole year. If they don't, for whatever reason, if the draft doesn't fall exactly the way that they'd like to, they want to have at least some sort of stopgap to say, hey, we know we got 5 or 6 or 7 guys that we can trust in this room.
Yeah.
Do you see that as a possibility?
I do. Like, because we talk about the depth at receiver in this draft, right? So maybe the Packers are figuring like, hell, even if we do have to take a 5th or 6th round, receiver, at least we're shoring up like that floor, like you're saying, and we're making the receiver room more competitive. I mean, you've got Watson out until, like you said, maybe the whole year. Hopefully not. Hopefully he's back by Thanksgiving or something, and we get to see Scoot out there. The closest to a number 1 wideout that we have. But I think adding a veteran like Hardman does a good service to us, especially once the numbers come out and we're not crazy overpaying. And this is I don't want to say Band-Aid, and this definitely isn't Sammy Watkins all over again, like I know some people are already complaining about. I think we'll get some serviceable performance from Hardman throughout the season. I really do. And I'm with you, Jacob. I want to see him as a special teamer. I really do.
Yep. I think based off of what Keyshawn Nixon said, and Mike, thank you so much for the super chat, bub. We appreciate you. Based off, Keyshawn Nixon saying he didn't want to be the returner anymore. It's like this kind of feels like that might be that move, right? So maybe we carry 6 receivers with him being kind of that special teams guy. And who knows, man, if Keyshawn isn't returning kicks, maybe his defensive, I don't want to say skills, but results kind of go up a little bit too, not having to worry about that aspect of the game as well. So I love that everybody's being optimistic about it, because some people will roll their eyes. And I made that comment about the 10 million just to prove a point. Like I wanted everybody to feel that for a second. Like, okay, yeah, hold up a minute. This is probably a minimum contract. You know what I mean? Like take you to the extreme and bring you right back type thing. And on Twitter, there's nobody reporting the details. What that tells you, probably a minimum. Go ahead, Carla.
I was going to say pretty much what you just did, that I was listening to a pod that talked about like how agents want to brag about how much they got their players real quick when they sign, if it's all said and done. But if the longer it drags out, the more likely it's going to be a lower number.
Definitely. That's probably the case here, I'm sure. Josh Martin with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. He says, I was being serious, wide receiver 1. Watson out until mid-November at the earliest. Dobbs concussion concern. Wicks and Melton are third string at best right now. I'm glad that you put right now, because based off last year, you could kind of see Wicks and Melton being the third best receiver on the team. Now, I think Wicks has the capability of being a 2, maybe a 1 eventually, based off of what he did his rookie year. But last year, man, it really smacked everybody in the mouth. Like, okay, we gotta slow our roll here and see if he can rebound from that sophomore slump. But in terms of wide receiver 1, that term gets thrown around a lot, Josh. And I'm not saying you're doing this. I just kind of, when I hear wide receiver 1, I think of a wide receiver 1 not as the best receiver on the team. I think of a wide receiver 1 as someone who tilts the field, someone who draws coverage, someone who draws bracket coverage. Like, he's a Tuesday player. You can't be a wide receiver 1 and not a Tuesday player. And what we mean by Tuesday player, that's a Belichick term, where that's the players that they would game plan for on Tuesdays when the coaches get together. These are the guys we have to stop this week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a wide receiver one. But I think what you're saying is, hey, who knows? He may lead in targets here if he is the field stretcher. But does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that makes total sense. I think that there obviously could be a possibility, maybe, but again, the only thing I would say, I was doing a little digging. It said back in 23, the Jets received a 2025 6th-round pick from the Chiefs and gave the Kansas City a 2025 7th round just to get Hardman. So Kansas City gave up a draft, moved up around in the draft, gave him a 6th to bring him back. So that it means the guy brought something, I would think. He brought something to that locker room. I think that would be huge. But again, it's also iron sharpens iron. Let's bring in as many wide receivers as we can. Let's get these young guys with a little bit of, like Carly was saying, a little bit of heat under their feet and see how it goes. I think that's the best way to kind of approach it.
Yeah, I can see that. Josh Martin, again, thank you for the super chat, man. Let's go around the chat here. Drew D, the Bears had hosted Mecole Hardman yesterday. Now, people may laugh at that, but look at the receivers they've got on their roster. Like DJ Moore, he's a legit – I don't want to say he's a field-tilting wide receiver, but he's the best receiver on that team unless Rome Odunze unseats him this year, which Rome Odunze, some would say, hey, you put him on a team with a good quarterback, one that can get rid of the football in less than 7 seconds, he'd probably be a solid receiver. So now with the Bears kind of taking a look at him, that would suggest they possibly seen him as their number 3 receiver, right? And I think that's a decent sign in what teams think he may or may not be. So let's see here. We've got also in the chat, Chuck Jaggers, we just got our Band-Aid till Watson comes back. I could see that. Prince says speedy slot size guy can focus on big boundary target in the draft. Melton has competition. That's what I kind of I first thought if Melton was our backup F, right, which you've seen that in mop-up time, they would put him in the F spot where Jaden Reed was. Maybe this is a way that they could explore the option of doing what we talked about and putting Jaden Reed out to the Z like he was in college. So maybe you could throw him out to the Z, work Mecole in, work Bo Melton in. If he could take a step, you can kind of patch this thing together. But I think Tim would agree with this from J. Cole. This makes me believe we're drafting Higgins or Harris. Tim, do you sign off on that, sir?
Yes, absolutely. And I agree. I'm not at all upset about this signing. I just don't think, Mecole Hardman he's the dude. He's the wide receiver one. I don't believe that. I believe he makes us stronger at a point that we need to be stronger. We lost Scoot for the better part of this season. We have to make adjustments. And I think bringing in a vet and then drafting, a top tier prospect here is a good approach. It makes your receiver room competitive. And, to Jacob's point earlier, I'm looking forward to what Mecole Hardman's going to bring to us in the run game. We talk about the zipper motion and the pre-snap deception and the things that we already like to do. I mean, that guy did that a lot in Kansas City. We've seen it on tape. They use a lot of that in their offense. So, I mean, I'm cool with it. I believe as much as I have before, if not more so, just like J. Cole said, that I still think we're grabbing a receiver early in this draft.
Mr. Jass with the super chat says the tattoo of Amelia should be a hilariously exaggerated character, like one from one of those guys in a park with the big drawing pad. Oh, I like it. We could have like literally the cheesehead sombrero cover the small of the back too, Jake.
Right.
What do you think?
It just climbs all the way up there.
I wouldn't use that word, but yeah, we could have it climb up the back there, Amelia. My gosh. So thank you, Jass. We appreciate you, sir. That's Hugh, if anybody was wondering. Thank you for the super chat. J. Cole, you want vets on this team? Well, we just signed one. I already see people complaining. It's a good point, man. Like, if you're going to sign vets, they've got to come at some position, or are we going to go back in as the youngest team again? We got a little bit older with the 2 free agent signings, right? Albeit they're not like crazy old, but I think that's a good chance that alone will pull us up out of that youngest team spot, but we're probably still going to be in the bottom 3, I would imagine. So let's see. Prince, yeah, he just turns 27, not too old, but still old enough to be considered a veteran for sure. King Tron, listen, at one point, Mecole played a pivotal point in a Chiefs Super Bowl chase on multiple years. He is at the very, very least raises our wide receiver room, and we need some age. I believe that he is serviceable. I agree with that.
He was the best guy around.
He was an
J. Cole
all-pro.
said-
He was an all-pro.
Yeah, J. Cole said mentorship role. This wide receiver room desperately needs that. This doesn't change the fact they are drafting a wide receiver. Hardman has championships. He's played in big games. I don't hate this. So there you go, man. Appreciate the comment. Hey, anything else anybody wants to add to the Hardman talk here, man? It's interesting. It literally, I thought it was a spoof. I looked at Twitter right before we went live, and I went, damn, we just signed somebody. That's kind of cool. So that's good time. Anything else?
I mean, let's not forget the possibility that one of these younger guys steps the hell up and Mecole Hardman doesn't even make this football team. I mean, it's very possible.
Right. Good point.
I agree. Like Tim said, I almost expect Wicks to come back and be way more, I guess, hungry or whatever the case would be. I expect Jaden Reed to have a bigger role. I expect even guys like Malik Heath and Bo to kind of not just sit there and be like content with the fact that they're maybe a fourth or fifth on this team, especially when there's a gap with Watson being gone. I think the biggest question mark that I have right now is Romeo Doubs, his health, his mental health, whether or not he wants to be here and what's going to go on forward, because there is a little bit of a concern, honestly, if I'm being real. But that, I think, is a real reason as to what Coach Len is saying right here. We got, like I said, that floor, that absolute base. He says, now we go get our power forward type wide receiver, Mr. Trey Harris, Higgins, Royals, or an Eric Ayamanor.
There you go.
Yes.
Hey, I have no problem with that. None whatsoever. So we talked about this a little bit, right, Chris Godwin, and we were waiting on the full details of the contract. We know he took less money to stay in Tampa, which he's always been labeled a team guy. It's one of the reasons why I was all over him as a free agent. Like, if there is a receiver out there I would want, this is the dude. So we get the details. I won't spend a whole lot of time, but like when you guys hear us say it's a 3-year deal that's really a 2, or it's a 4-year deal that's really a 3, this is the prime example here, okay? Wide receiver Chris Godwin's Buccaneers extension, 3 years, $66 million base value, $44 million guaranteed, okay? And it says 1.4 annual incentives, 2 years, $44 million in practical guarantees, okay? So what that basically means, it's a 3-year deal, but with it being 2 years, $44 million practical guarantee, you can get out of the third year. It essentially turns into a 2-year, $22 million per year type deal. And if he's still balling out when you get into year 3, now they've already got a void year attached there as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, $8.3 million in void. So his cap hits were in 2025, $12.9 million. It blimps to 33.6 in year 2. His cap number will not be that, right? They'll be able to kick that around, move it around, get it into 27 and 28 if he's still balling out. And then when you decide to cut bait at the end of the day, if you do that at the end of 2026, it's probably just going to be about a $44 million bill. So you essentially got him for 2 years, $22 million per. Does that make sense? Because we always talk about that type of deal, and we never really have a visualization of what that looks like. This is the perfect example here with Chris Godwin. And I didn't pull that up to go, man, I wish we got him, like most Packer fans are doing right now. It's just a learning experiment of, okay, here's what we're talking about when you say a 3-year deal is really a 2. So, all right, let's move it along. Something else that came down the pike, we'll hit this real quick. Now I want to get to some Derek Harmon talk. This was cool. Dove Kleiman on Twitter tweeted out, said every NFL, MLB, and NBA stadium, ballpark, arena ranked by average review rating on Yelp, Google, TripAdvisor, and Facebook. Very surprising. Out of all 3 major sports, Lambeau Field is number 1 on this.
Mm-hmm.
You love to see it. Love to see it. Behind them is PNC Park, obviously where the Pittsburgh Pirates play. Horrible baseball team, but man, it's a beautiful backdrop to go up and watch some garbage baseball. Camden Yards is number 3 there, the Baltimore Orioles. Number 4 is Busch Stadium, where the Cardinals play baseball out in St. Louis. Been to that one. That's a pretty sweet stadium, by the way. And then number 5 is Oracle Park. That's where the San Francisco Giants play baseball. So the next NFL team to pop up was actually Lumen Field in Seattle, and they're 6th on this list. How cool is it? We are hands down the best NFL stadium on the face of the planet. It's no news to us. I just thought it'd be cool that we dropped this in.
Kind of by far, too. Look at that.
Right.
Then you got to wait till you hit, Pittsburgh and the Colts Stadium?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of crazy.
Definitely. Any other comments on that right there, gang?
Worth it, man. That's why you get chills driving up. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I would never forget the first time I came across the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and we went up we came through Appleton and then wrapped back around. And as we crossed the Fox River, you could see it like a ghost ship off in the distance. I will never forget the way I felt when I seen that stadium. That was back in 2003, the first time I seen it. So I didn't get to witness the Green Monster like Tim did back in his heyday.
Oh, man, the OG. Well, the OG of my era, I guess. It's fun to go back, check out Cliff Crystal's book, and really see the history and the, new city stadium, the transition that it would, eventually become Lambeau Field, and just to see how different the area has just changed so much, even from, just my childhood to now. And then you think about, even decades before that, any of us were even here, what it looked like. And to see what it looks like today, it's just amazing. I can only imagine what it'll look like 10 years, 20 years from now,
Yeah. Whoever marked this, read it for me real quick. I got to send a text.
Yep. Ethan Fragasso says, I'm curious with the Higgins extension, if the Bengals could even bring back Trey Hendrickson. If Cincinnati asked for Rashid and a 6, would you want to do that trade, assuming Jordan Morgan is our future left tackle? I know personally, if you haven't listened to Ryan's podcast this morning, he actually addressed this kind of, I don't want to call it a conspiracy or whatever, but it seems like everybody's, they can't pay Burrow, Higgins, Chase, and a 4th or even a 5th, because I believe it was Orlando Brown also was tied up into those contracts. They've got money because they're not paying other people. You know what I mean? They have one of the lowest kind of paid out rosters aside from those top 4 or 5. And it's not unheard of now that your top 3 or 4 or 5 people are going to account for over 50% of your cap. It's just the way that works right now. It might be a little bit different because we haven't seen maybe some of these flashy names and all that. And I think it makes for good clickbait, but I was really interested in his segment that he did on that, because it makes me kind of take a step back and be like, I think there's a lot of lying season going on with that, trying to ruffle a lot of different teams into making certain moves they probably wouldn't normally.
The same thing happened when Aaron Rodgers signed his last extension in Green Bay. He's the $50 million contract. He's a $50 million quarterback, right? And all that they were talking about was the extension. They were talking about was already existing and how that's going to spread out. And then as we learned later, I actually broke it on our podcast because it was Russell Wilson's agent talked about it. We don't know how the option bonuses are going to play out there. And what happened? The optional aspect of Aaron Rodgers' contract carried over to the Jets, and now they just had to cut a bunch of dead cap. That's why you got to really, really dig between the lines. And I tell people, don't get caught up on the cap from a sense of, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. It's very time sensitive. The cap is very time sensitive. But if you want a player, you can make it work. The question is, you got to make sure, it's not a question, but you got to make sure you get the right players in the build. Now, what Cincinnati's doing is something way different. I listened to the same pod this morning, Jacob. It was an excellent job by Ryan breaking it down. Cincinnati is basically saying, the hell with it. We don't care about corners. We don't care about having good players throughout the team. We want a great quarterback, 2 great wide receivers, and a great edge rusher, and we're going to go try to win. How did that work out last year? Somebody remind me. Those receivers were on their team last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's like Jacob when he's playing backyard football. He just takes Brett Favre, Pablo Sanchez, you know what I mean, and Ernie Davis, and just throws a deep ball every time.
Every time. Go to the Buick.
Yeah.
Four vert. Let's go.
Affin plays on varsity, and so does Emilio. You guys are a bunch of chimps.
I don't know.
I will say the one thing I don't like about this is the assumption of Morgan being our left tackle, right? Like, because is anyone comfortable assuming that he's going to be our left tackle? And if you are, and you do move on from Rashid, what's the competition at left tackle? You're basically just telling this second-year guy coming off, a season riddled with injury and us trying to make him be a guard. And now we're telling him going back to the left side and we're moving on from Rashid. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Like
Rashid is such great value, a 7th-round pick at that position. Like, I want to keep him all day long. Yeah. All day long, he's staying.
Yeah, so I wouldn't give him up in a 6th, even if that meant getting Hendrickson. Honestly,
Jacob just got a good pop out of Emilio. I don't know if y'all noticed that, but the Italian came out of Emilio just now when you see Jacob go, thank you. What was that?
It's true though. I mean, at that point, I'd rather keep Rashid, and then if we lose in the free agency or whatever, then you'd get if he gets paid that kind of handsomely, we're going to get a 3rd back for him, right? So I mean, it's
I don't have as much concern about whether Jordan Morgan could play left tackle because he played it his entire life, not at the NFL level. But to Tim's point, if he goes down, who's your left tackle now?
My boy. My boy.
Oh my gosh.
If you say Travis Glover, I'm gonna.
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
Oh, you know he can hold down the corner of that wall. My boy Travis Glover. Yes, Jacob. That's who I'm talking about.
Tan.
Oh, we're gonna give him some
Jan almost everywhere.
All right. Anything else on whatever the heck we're talking about, right? I don't even know what we're talking about. Oh man, let's see here. King Tron says, "Got to be honest with you, I can't stop buzzing over the additions of this offseason. People can hate, and that's fine, but it's all smiles over here and a strong draft class to boot, baby. Go Pack, go." Again, man, I run the signings and the evaluation through like 3 different filters. Some people go to PFF and go, okay, he's good, or he's really bad, right? And that's what they go off of. Other people will watch the tape, most of which don't even know what the hell they're watching, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, he looked good. And you'll see the highlight reel, and you won't see the bad snaps. I think that can be misleading. And then for me, it's step back and what did the general manager think he was worth? That should speak volumes, right? Like, and listen, Goody didn't go out there and he was the only person bidding on him. I guarantee you, Goody didn't just go, hey, man, we'll give you this, take it or leave it. It's probably that was the number that was kind of established. There was probably a team or two in the mix, and that ended up being the winning bid. So if there's multiple GMs that are willing to pay Aaron Banks that kind of money, like why are we so tore up over it? You know what I mean? And the big thing is the other thing I would say is Goody definitely had a very, 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 very high draft grade on this guy, or he would not have gave that money. Goody does not just go out and sign. It's just like Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman's several years removed from coming in the league, but I guarantee you the first thing Goody did when he's trying to add another piece of his team, he probably looked at Mecole Hardman and said, this dude's worth it taking a flyer on for a damn near minimum contract. Here's the draft grade we had on him. We had an early second or whatever it might be, right? It's worth taking a shot. So I love the optimism, Kingtron. Same thing with Hobbs. I think Hobbs has got versatility. I think he plays the game hard. I think I don't want to say ball hawk, but he's definitely a magnet to the ball. Like it's just he plays the ball, whether it's trying to knock the ball out, trying to strip a fumble, or get the interception. Some players in the past that we've had, we haven't had that. Keyshawn plays that way, and that's what I respect about Keyshawn. Keyshawn is not shy. He's going after the damn football. And I really, really like that about Keyshawn Nixon. It kind of feels like Hobbs is the same way in a bigger frame. What is he, 6'1"? So
yep. I'm
with you, Tron. I like these signings, man.
Boy, you know, it's really crazy. I don't know if we've done this lately, but if you pull up the ESPN, their depth chart for what we have here with the Packers, they have no backup listed for left tackle and no backup listed for right tackle. They've got Kadeem Telfort backing up Aaron Banks at left guard, Monk backing up Elton with Trey Hill backing up him. Right guard is Sean Ryan still, and they have Jordan Morgan plugged in there with Marquise Hayes and Donovan Jennings, who, if you remember, was, I thought, a tackle that we got out of, I believe it was some smaller Florida school. But like Clayton just said, say we do trade away Rasheed Walker and something happens, God forbid, to Zach Tom, what are we doing? Like, to me, this sounds like we're going to be drafting quite a bit more at the tackle position than we maybe thought.
Right. And that's what you've really got to look at is how's the roster constructed right now. And listen, ESPN could be wrong, right?
Yeah.
It could be wrong on some of these. Absolutely. We would agree on that. I'm telling you how you fix it. You go get Armand Membo if he falls to you at 23.
There's a guy.
I'm telling you.
You don't have to tell me twice on
Let's
that.
go.
That would be sick. But again, it just depends on how the board falls. You know, not everybody, I got to quit saying it. Many people look at it, well, we need this position in the first round. No, you don't. If the value's there, and you can pick between 3 different positions, yeah, great. I'm okay with that. But for someone to just blindly say we got to take this position at this pick is just silly. It's absolutely silly. So, and Drew, yes, you are correct, sir. He said Clayton had this whole episode all planned out, and then we signed Hardman. Mm-hmm. That is correct. That is absolutely correct. There you go. Go ahead, Jake.
No, I pulled up 33rd team because I thought maybe they'd be a little more accurate. Well, they still got Josh Myers on our team. They got Dillard backing up Rasheed Walker, nobody backing up Elton Jenkins at left guard, and they have Travis Glover backing up Zach Tom. So I don't know what the heck's going on.
I'm telling you, he can play all over.
He can play all over. They're gonna put him in a tight end. Ain't they, man?
Play that left tackle, left guard, right tackle. They'll put him at center and call it a day.
You're calling it
Hitting
first
the
team All Pro?
Such a cannoli eater.
Oh, there will be some cannolis eaten in Green Bay. I promise you that. All right, let's see. Let's get ready to move on to the next topic. We may not have enough time to. Let's hit this video real quick. Tim, can you get me a screen grab ready? You mind to do that, sir?
Yeah, let's go Suge and Tupac. Let's go.
Oh, I like it. I like it. So what we're going to play here, we're always talking about quarterback in the draft, right? Every year the draft begins and ends with quarterback. So what is the quarterback class look like projected in the first round? Well, this is Les Snead, the general manager of the LA Rams, okay? And listen, there's people that laughed at Les Snead when they went, quote unquote, all in and it set their franchise back. They got a damn ring. I don't subscribe to that whole, well, it wasn't the right thing to do. If you get a ring, it was the right thing to do, right? Here's what he has to say about the quarterbacks. About 2 minutes long. Hopefully we can hear it okay. It's Pat McAfee show, so they usually get the volume at a pretty decent level. Here's Les Snead talking about the quarterbacks specifically in this year's draft.
What should we know about this particular draft? There's a lot of conversation about, like, is there high-end talent? Is there more depth of talent? Like, what do you think about this particular draft class as a whole, and what will the storyline be, you think, the day after the draft?
Every draft has talent. It'll be a fun draft only because you think about last year, 7. I think we picked 19. Last year, 7 QBs went before pick 19. It's probably a reason why someone like Jared Verse got pushed to 19. You never know. Maybe he would have fallen 19 anyway. Maybe he would have gone pick 15, 6, I don't know, a little bit earlier if it wasn't those 7 QBs. It doesn't seem like this year there's going to be 7 QBs that go before pick 19. So that is going to be for the first time in a while, how many QBs actually go in the first round, how many go, before pick 15, all those things. And what that does now is all of a sudden, let's call it position players start getting picked right earlier and earlier. So it's going to be a fascinating draft of position players and not just QB dominated. And it'll be fun to, take the day after the draft, whatever that storyline is, that's going to be irrelevant. That'll be good content for maybe your show on Monday, Tuesday. But I can tell you this, it'll be interesting to see, right, how these players who get picked in this first round and even second round, things like that, what they're doing 2 and 3 years down the road. Only because, it's going to be the first year where it might be the least amount of QBs, picked in the first round in a long time.
I love the general manager saying, yeah, we're judging drafts the day after the draft. Why don't we wait 2-3 years and see who's a winner, who's not? You certainly have been, and we appreciate you taking the time, Les. Have a great day.
Hey, appreciate it. Always enjoy it.
Hey, can artists sign that photo and send that, or is that dry erase?
Oh, we're sending it to you.
Thank you. Artists.
All right. So there you go. That was Les Snead on the Pat McAfee show talking about the quarterback class. Now, you guys know we've been pretty vocal about this. We've only got 2 of first-round grades on our board. That's Cam Ward in the number 8 spot. And then, of course, you've got to go down a decent amount to the 14 spot to find Shedeur Sanders. But there have been rumblings that Jackson Dart could climb into the first round. To me, he seems like the most likely if a third does make it into the first round. However, like we seen last year, nobody expected. Did he say 7? I thought it was only 6. Was it 7 last year?
I know it was 6. When he said 7, I kind of scratched my head too, but I know it was 6.
It's crazy. Prince in the chat. Copper, anybody know who Mel Copper is?
Who in the hell is Mel Kiper anyway?
Latest mock had 3 quarterbacks in the top 10, highest I have ever seen Jackson Dart. I'm telling you, man, they will overpay for quarterbacks. And we've got Jackson Dart. Our board.
73.
Yeah, so we got him 73. And we got Jalen Milrose significantly higher than him. And I know
I hope the kid's head's still in the game after all the off the field stuff,
Tim, you want to talk about that or no?
Which one? I'm just, it's not worth discussing, but
no, it's a good point.
little personal stuff going on with him right now.
Which one are you talking about?
Jackson Dart.
Oh,
Jacob said, let me turn my camera off and Google this.
Yeah, it's soap opera worthy. We'll just put it that way for sure. Yeah. But I hope the young man's got his head on straight going into the draft. And, I don't think any of that stuff is going to hurt his stock. I just wonder, how he's really going to turn out in his first year in the league, given all the crap going on. But he's definitely got the skills. We've talked about him numerous times. Certainly, I don't know. Would you guys say he's probably a top 5 quarterback in this?
Talking about Jackson Dart?
Yep.
I don't, because I go strictly off the board, but you would always willing to take them one tier higher than they're at. That doesn't even put him in the first round if you go one tier higher. But I'm telling you, man, these teams, quarterback's that important. They'll take a swing on it. And if you hit on that dude in the first round, you've got him for 5 years, including that 5th-year option, right? So I don't know, man. If I had to put money on it, it's tough because I could see it happening. I just don't agree with it. Does that make sense? Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't think he's good enough to be a first-round pick. What do y'all think about it?
I think that what's really helping him out is when I'm looking at this list of quarterbacks, other than your first couple here. I mean, even like Cam Ward, 22, almost 23 years old. Shador is over 23. Jalen Monroe is over 22. Will Howard's 23 and a half. Riley Leonard, 22 and a half. Jackson Dart's 21.8 years old. Like, talk about a ball of clay that you could mold. And he graded out spectacularly pretty much every single year, especially the last two. 6'2", 225. I mean, that's pretty much ideal. He's a two-sport throwing background with the baseball and football career. So I could see it. I didn't have time to Google what happened, but I'm intrigued now. So I don't know if that really is going to affect him, but I don't see 3 in the first round. I just don't.
Yeah, and Emilio, as you can see on our board, and Carla, you just chime in anywhere you want to.
Okay.
PFF 2022, he was the 80th graded quarterback. He jumped all the way to 10th in 2023, and then last year he jumped all the way to 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
But the PFF, so he was the 3rd highest graded quarterback in college football, but the PFF big board at the end of the college football season had him at 193. Somebody make sense of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, why is it? Do we know or even have a hint of why that is? I know nothing about him. I hadn't even heard of him until you guys mentioned him, actually. I'd only heard of the top 2.
This is what PFF said about why their big board doesn't line up with their grades, is because they feel like college teams have misused players. Okay, so he graded out.
Got hold to the wrong stuff.
So in this case with Jackson Dart, seeing that he was the 3rd highest graded quarterback in college football, but he was 193 on the big board at the end of the season, are you saying they used him too good? Are you saying that the system made him shine so well that that's kind of a false representation of the quarterback that he had? You know what I'm saying, Emilio? Make sense of it. I can't, man.
I mean, it's tough because, he also impressed when he was throwing in his, his underwear, right? So teams liked when he was able to spin it. That's cool. He's got the flow that Jacob loves. I get it. But the issue is, like, I mean, you got to perform out there, right? So I would honestly see Milroe going because he's more of an athlete than Dart.
Yeah.
Before Dart gets pulled in the first, I think that you could, try to use Milroe. You could teach him, throwing techniques, all that. The dude, like DJ said, has a 100 or an 80 in baseball terms in his speed and running category. Like, that dude's ability to run the football is unbelievable. If you have a team, with a quarterback that you rely on, that you want to work the ball that way, you're taking your chance on that. If you fall so you can get 5 years on him, I think it's a good move. Dart could sneak in, and the way that could happen is like just how Mel Kiper did it. Put him in one draft, then maybe another big guy puts him in another draft. We'll see what DJ says about it. We'll see what 33rd team says, but it's all about hype. I was going to look to see where he's at right now. I want to know where that PFF has him now, because I'm guessing they're probably moving them around.
Well, I guarantee
he's 126.
126. So he jumped how many spots now, Jackson Dart? So he jumped from 193 to 126. What you're saying, Jacob?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right, so no more football's been played to jump 70 spots.
Right.
It's pretty wild. So, all right, that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour 2. We're going to break down some scouting reports of players that we think are on the Packers' radar, one being a top defensive lineman in this draft. That's called a tease. We'll see you in hour 2. Appreciate you.